Hi, I'm Lisa. My seminar today is about 3 chapters from Dunne and Raby's book, Speculative Everything. Just give me a second. There we go. First, who are Dunne and Raby? They are speculative designers and professors at the New York School and have written several books. This image is of a huggable atomic mushroom from their project, Designs for Fragile Personalities in Anxious Times. It's referenced in chapter 3 as an example of a project using irony in critical design. As you'll recall, last week, Chris started us off with the definition of design as the social process of turning an abstract idea real to create a desired outcome. We went on to discuss Malpass's perspective from Stephanie's seminar. A critical design is something that must raise questions, thoughts, or considerations. I think Malpass's definition and our class discussion aligns with Dunne and Raby. They explained that critical design is an attitude or a position rather than a methodology. It's the opposite of affirmative design as it challenges the status quo. And, quote, critical design uses speculative design proposals to change narrow assumptions, preconceptions, and givens about the role products play in everyday life. I think this aligns with the raising questions definition we talked about in class. But what is the speculative design proposals in this definition? When Dunne and Raby talk about speculative design, they mean using design as a means of speculating or theorizing without firm evidence how things could be. It acts as a catalyst for collectively redefining our relationship to reality. But Dunne and Raby go on. To them, it is important to address the misconception that critical in critical design means negative. Theirs is a much more optimistic view of critical design. They write that critical design is ultimately positive and idealistic because we believe that change is possible, that things can be better. It is just that the way of getting there is different. It is an intellectual journey based on challenging and changing values, ideas, and beliefs. Last week, we also got into the discussion of how we measure what is good critical design. Dunne and Raby provide some criteria that might help. They say that critical design's power to disturb lies in it being close to the everyday. It should be demanding, challenging, and raise awareness for issues that are not already well known. Design needs to be more disturbing than art is. It suggests that everyday life as we know it could be different. And that's why it needs to be physical. What do you think? Do these criteria sound like they're more measurable than some of the ideas we had last week? Can we decide what counts as critical design by this criteria? Before you answer that, we're going to play a little game. Dunne and Raby's Speculative Everything is based on our ability to imagine other worlds and alternatives. They provide examples of several different approaches to design imagination. To have a little fun with this, I'm going to provide an example from the chapter and some possible categories. You have to guess which category each falls under. Let's see how well you do. The first one is George Orwell's 1984. Is that novel an example of A, extrapolation, neoliberal speculative fiction, B, utopia, dystopia, C, fictional worlds, or D, ideas as story? Pause the video, think about it. You ready? The answer is B, utopia/dystopia. Well done. That was an easy one to get you started. 1984 is one of the most powerful examples of dystopia. Critical science fiction is when these kind of dystopias are understood in relation to our lived reality. If you guessed extrapolation, neoliberal speculative fiction, you'd have been wrong. This category refers to films and books, like Black Mirror, that fast forward technologies of today into nightmares of the future. And if you chose C, fictional worlds, you were also probably incorrect. Fictional worlds refer to when whole worlds are designed, visualized, and linked. The best examples being video game worlds like Grand Theft Auto or Halo, or probably many others that I don't know about. Okay, next one. What category does Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake fall under? Is it A, thought experiments, B, reductio ad absurdum, C, ideas as stories, or D, counterfactuals? Do you have your answer? Ready? The correct answer is C, ideas as stories. Congratulations. Dunne and Raby call Atwood the gold standard for speculative work based on real science and the use of stories to aid reflection. They talk about how she likes the term critical or speculative fiction instead of science fiction. If you chose A, thought experiments, on the other hand, those refer to experiments that allow us to step outside of reality for a moment to try something out. Reductio ad absurdum is a type of thought experiment that refers to a ridiculous outcome by taking a concept to its farthest extreme. And if you chose D, counterfactuals, well, that's when historic facts are changed to see what might have happened. Okay, one last one, and we won't use literature for this quiz. What category do projects like the fictional Attenborough design group Hard Drive Standing fall under? Hard drive standing is the concept of a hard drive that would be able to grow legs and move out of the way if it detects water. Do you think that falls under A, counterfactuals, B, reductio ad absurdum, C, what ifs, or D, thought experiments? That's right, it's A, counterfactuals. When a historical fact is changed to see what might have happened, like if David Attenborough had become an industrial designer instead of a wildlife filmmaker. Dunne and Raby provide this methodological playground to help us understand what to fully utilize the potential to help us understand that to fully utilize the potential of speculative design, it needs to be creative and separate from industry. Now that we've covered off some of these methodological categories, we get more into the physical aspect of speculative design. In chapter 6, the authors invite us to make believe and to think of the physical and fictional objects of speculative design as props. Much like film props, they provide reference to reality. However, unlike film props, they also help us to imagine or challenge ideas. Dunne and Raby say, quote, speculative design props do not stand in for the real thing and do not fit into predefined behavioral schema. They are physical fictions, departure points for sophisticated imaginings, never meant to be believed as real or to reflect reality, unquote. The physical props in speculative design need to be plausible, but not believable. They need to appear real, but have those gentle signs that they are not really real. Fictional proposition is what they call this, the right mix of close to reality so we can relate to it, but not too close so that it seems real. Instead, it's at odds with reality and makes us imagine an alternative reality. A good example of this is Patricia Piccini's The Young Family. It's shocking and powerful because it's so realistic in its detail, but it also leaves the viewer's imagination open to think about where this kind of world could exist or how that world could exist. Speculative designers are interested in using props to transport viewers' imagination into a thought experiment or what if, and allow enough room for them to make their own interpretation, according to Dunne and Raby. Let's not confuse that idea of fictional proposition with design fiction. Although the term design fiction and speculative design are often used interchangeably, Dunne and Raby outline some differences between the two. Design fiction was further discussed in the other reading this week from Rosello. This chart shows the differences. And although Dunne and Raby admit that they are indeed producing fictional design or design fiction, what they are creating is more focused on questioning and therefore is often, quote, glitch, strange, and disruptive. They believe that the work that they're doing is more about questioning, where design fiction is more about celebrating technology. So let's recap. Speculative design is a tool used in critical design. It's about how things could be, positive or negative. It works alongside other critical approaches. The methodologies include fictional worlds and thought experiments. Speculative designs are intentionally fictional and physical objects. And speculative design has a broader purpose than fictional design. What do you think? Did Dunne and Raby, are they just hung up on their terminology? Are speculative design and design fiction really one and the same? Thanks.